Welcome to the first BeautyRx Skincare Live, where anybody can ask me questions about products, any BeautyRx products, either people who are using the products or people who've heard about the products and would like to use the products. You can also ask me questions about conditions that you would use the products for. If in the course of this live streaming video we have some technical problems, I won't be surprised. You won't be surprised. It's our first effort at this, but just bear with us and we're going to get the whole thing across. BeautyRx Skincare is really the first physician-created skincare line where users like yourself actually have access to the physician who created the skincare line. And while this accessibility is very important to me, it's also about accountability, because the BeautyRx skincare line really was created and evolved from clinical trials that involve my patients and users like you, and their feedback and your feedback is invaluable. So I want to hear what you have to say about the products if you're using them, whether you like them, and if there's anything about them that you don't like. It's really important for me to hear that and to know that. If you're watching this anywhere other than on BeautyRx.com, keep in mind that by visiting BeautyRx.com/live, you can actually post questions to ask. Today's session will go for about a half an hour, so we're going to get started. The first comment is, doesn't really burn when exposed to the sun. Is it really necessary for me to use a high SPF? Well, the bottom line is, even though you don't burn, certainly the ultraviolet energy from the sun is going to damage your skin. If you're not burning, then I presume that you're tanning. And anytime your skin gets darker from the sun, it's only because it's been injured. So it's very important for everyone, regardless of your skin type, whether it's sensitive, whether it's light, whether it's dark. Even Asians and Hispanic skin types, and even African Americans. Everybody needs to use sunscreen to protect them from the harmful effects of ultraviolet rays. We have a comment from CyberLady. I'm using the exfoliating pads at the moment and love them. Can I leave the glycolic on for longer than 15 minutes? Well, certainly, after a week or 2 weeks, you can actually leave them on overnight, because we just want to make sure that your skin is acclimated to them. And when I give these pads to patients in the office, we actually give them a schedule that says you leave it on for 15 minutes for the first week or two, and then you can leave it on overnight. So by all means, as long as you're not having any tingling or burning or irritation, after 2 weeks, leave them on overnight. They'll be even more effective, and it'll be much easier for you. And it's nice to hear from you, CyberLady. Jenny asked, Dr. Schultz, I have sensitive skin. Are your products good for sensitive skin? They most certainly are. Obviously, anybody with sensitive skin, and when I say sensitive skin, I'm talking about people whose skin is irritated very frequently by many common skincare ingredients and products, not rarely once in 5 years or once in 10 years. So if you truly do have sensitive skin, certainly these products are appropriate for sensitive skin, with the one thing to keep in mind, that anybody who's starting to use a new product, whether it's a cleanser or a toner, a bleach, or a glycolic product, certainly should test it in a small area, an area the size of about a quarter in front of their ear, for the first 2 or 3 times you use it, just to make sure that there's no irritation. Christina said, hi, I bought these pore strips to remove blackheads, and those created huge pores on my nose and sides of my nose. How can I undo this? The best way to help shrink enlarged pores is by regularly exfoliating. Don't forget, exfoliants on the surface create smoother, more lustrous, brighter skin, and exfoliants in the pores help to take out the dead cells that are actually clogging inside of the pores and holding in the oil and the concretion of the oil and the dead cells. So exfoliants dissolve dead cells and also help to dissolve those clogs. The exfoliants should be used regularly, such as the daily exfoliating therapy serum, which is an 8% serum, or even the 10% daily exfoliating therapy pads. But keep in mind that in addition to a chemical exfoliant, when you're treating enlarged pores, it's very helpful to use a physical exfoliant like a granular cleanser. And you only use granular cleansers, again to help unclog those pores. Only use granular cleansers at the end of the shower, after your skin has been steamed open by the hot water in the shower. That's when those cleansers can be most effective. A guest says, how can I improve the skin quality and clarity on my back? The bumps and blemishes are unsightly. Well, if we're talking about acne breakouts on your back, then certainly a very important part of that is using an exfoliant and using chemicals that will help reduce pimples and blemishes. So using a 10% exfoliant on your back is a good starter strength because the skin of your back is thicker and it's a little bit tougher than your facial skin. So you can certainly start with the 10% pads, and you can use them on every other night. In addition to that, you want to use products that have either sulfur or resorcinol or perhaps even benzoyl peroxide. I'm smiling because there's another comment here from Cyber Lady who's just asked me to move to England. Benzoyl peroxide, which will also help actually reduce the inflammation of those blemishes. Keep in mind that backne, or acne on your back, is much more resistant to treatment, and you have to treat it more aggressively. But by all means, there's no reason, especially in the summertime when you're wearing lighter garments and it's perhaps easier even to get to treat your back, to not be able to clear up your backne. I'm just scrolling through some questions and some comments, so bear with me. Arthur asks me, how can I get rid of oily skin forever? Is it possible? Unfortunately, the only way you can permanently affect the flow of oil is with Accutane. Accutane actually reduces the oil glands that make the oil. If you have oily skin, you can certainly control the oil with cleansers and toners, particularly with the purifying toner from BeautyRx, which has about 5% alcohol in it to help strip the oil, and then balancing cleanser to help remove any residual oils. Generally, the cleanser would be used first, the toner would be used second, but the point is that can control the amount of oil you have on your skin by using it regularly. But if you want a solution that's going to stop your skin from making that oil forever, I'm afraid the only thing that's going to do that is by actually affecting the oil glands with Accutane. And again, thank you for your question, Cyber Lady. But in the next year or two, I'm afraid that it's not really in our plans for me to move to England, but I am very flattered by your invitation and your comment that you need me there. Sally said, I have eczema and so does my boyfriend. I get them when I'm stressed or really worried, and that appears on my upper lips. How can I relieve the itching and peeling quickly and without scars? For conditions like this, Sally, first of all, you want to make sure that you're not doing anything to further irritate the situation. So you want to use very gentle cleansers and toners when you're cleansing these areas, and the refreshing cleanser and the clarifying toner certainly are of sufficiently gentle strength to not aggravate the problem. In addition to that, you want to make sure that there isn't any infection in the eczema, so you'll probably want to use a topical antibiotic. And of course, over-the-counter cortisone creams can help bring that under control quickly, and if it doesn't, then it's time to see your dermatologist. I have a comment from Lucy. Hi, Dr. Schultz. I scar easily. Sometimes when I have a breakout, the pimple is gone, but the mark is there for months. What can I do to reduce the scarring? Lucy, this is a very common problem. And the actual dark spot isn't a scar, fortunately, it's a stain. And the stain occurs because when the skin is injured, it darkens. So when you have darkened skin, there are 3 things that you need to do to help make that lighter. The first is making sure you're using very, very effective sun protection, because the sun makes these things darker much more effectively than any of our topical products can bleach or lighten them. So I recommend using the BeautyRx Maximum Solar Defense Sheer Cream SPF 50 as the best block that I have to help prevent additional darkening. Then you need an exfoliant to take off the dead cells that have too much pigment in them. In addition to that, you need to use a bleaching product that will actually stop these cells from making additional pigment. So you need to use all three of these products in order to effectively reduce what we call post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which really just means skin that is darkened as a result of having had an injury. And whether the injury is a burn from cooking or the injury of a blemish or a pimple, it's the same type of thing. All of the BeautyRx exfoliants are suitable here, and as is the BeautyRx Brightening Complex, which has not been released to the public yet but will soon be available. And by the way, if you're watching this anywhere other than on BeautyRx.com, keep in mind that by visiting BeautyRx.com/live, you can actually post questions to ask and for me to answer. We have a comment from Jordan. What do you recommend for men who have oily skin? Jordan, again, it's going to be a question of controlling that oil, and controlling the oil is a matter of using a skin type appropriate, meaning an appropriate cleanser and toner for oily skin. So I would recommend starting with the balancing cleanser, which really does a great job of removing excess oil without over drying, and then to remove any residual dirt or debris or even oils or cleanser that water didn't remove, then it's time to use purifying toner. And this should be done probably anywhere between 2 and 4 times a day. A very nice comment from Adrian responding to Cyber Lady. No, better that you should move to Switzerland. I would love to be your patient. Thank you so much, Adrian. And we have a comment from a guest. If you're using 50 plus SPF and you still tan, is the skin being damaged? What a great question. It's still being damaged a little bit, but there are some people whose pigment cells are so sensitive to the sun that even with effective sunscreens, those pigment cells make additional pigment and the skin gets darker. But I can promise you one thing. If you're getting that darkening with an SPF of 50, it is so much less dangerous than getting that darkening without the sunscreen, that what you've really done is you've reduced the damage that that darkening would otherwise represent. You've reduced it by probably 75 to 90%. So don't be discouraged if, despite your best intentions, you're using an effective sunscreen and you're using it properly and you're still getting some color. Don't be discouraged by that. You're doing the right thing. Continue using that sunscreen. This is a comment from Lauren, and she said, I read about your patient trials on your website. Can you tell me a little more about them and how your BeautyRx products are developed? The patient trials, Lauren, really refer to the fact that in the past 10 years, I've been seeing approximately 10,000 patient visits per year. So over those 10 years, I had approximately 100,000 patient visits. And those 100,000 visits really represented what has to be the world's most unique and longest and largest ongoing patient trial for product development, because at least a half of those visits involved patients who had conditions which required skincare products, and the line from which BeautyRx evolved was the line that I perfected with those patients, giving them products, having them use them for their skin, demonstrating that these things worked, and if they didn't work well enough, making the changes that needed to be made. But over a period of years, we culled out the best products, we removed the products that weren't working as we wanted them to, or else adjusted them and modified them. And in this sense, over a period of 10 years, the line, which is now BeautyRx Skincare, has evolved strictly as a result of feedback from patients who were patients of mine or their friends who use the products, and that's exactly why we're doing BeautyRx Live today, to get your reaction to the products, to get your comments, because we want this feedback, because we want to continue to improve these products. Comment from a guest. I have noticed an increase in black moles, black dots on my face. How can I get rid of them? Usually, these black bumps are just thickenings of the skin. They happen more in darker skinned people than lighter skinned people. They're usually genetic. It's usually a gift from thanks mom, thanks dad. And you have no control over the development of these if these are what we call tiny keratoses. And if you don't like them, they're real easy to have removed by your dermatologist. But these raised little dark bumps, you're not going to be able to remove with skincare products, unfortunately. not even with BeautyRx skincare products. And we have a comment from Beauty in a Snap. Dr. Schultz, what do you think about at-home devices such as the Baby Quasar MD? Well, all at-home devices have some efficacy, because if they didn't have any efficacy, they couldn't have gotten through the FDA. But the real issue is, when it comes to home devices, the FDA is much more interested in demonstrating safety than they are in demonstrating efficacy. They want to make sure you don't get hurt by these devices. So you can be sure that when you use these devices as directed, you're not going to get hurt. But we have to be realistic. And being realistic means if you have a small device that has a limited amount of energy and power, how much can it accomplish? Well, certainly some of the hair removal at-home devices and some of the acne treatment at-home devices, they make a difference. They make an improvement. Not as much of an improvement as the real devices, the real medical devices that they were fashioned after, but if you are willing and able to spend the money on these at-home devices, you will see some benefit, and if the benefit is sufficient to you, then you've made a good purchase. And if it's not sufficient benefit, then you can always try seeing a dermatologist to get even more effective treatment that the device wasn't able to deliver for you. This is from Sally. Thank you, Dr. Schultz. Thanks for taking time out of your day to answer our questions and worries. I appreciate it so much, and I'm thankful to you. Your videos have helped me so much. I'm now using sunscreen even on rainy days, and told my boyfriend to do so also. Thank you so much. Sally, thank you for that comment. The reason you need to use sunscreen on rainy days, as you've realized, is because you can even get 30 to 50% of the ultraviolet through those clouds when it's raining. So good for you. And I can promise you, Sally, that since the only way you can prematurely age your skin is to expose it to the sun or ultraviolet energy without protection, you're going a long way towards retarding and setting back sun damage and keeping your skin looking younger, healthier, and more beautiful for a long period of time. Adrian asks, in terms of Accutane, can a diabetic person use Accutane? Yes, of course a diabetic person can use Accutane because Accutane doesn't do anything to affect sugar levels. It may affect triglyceride levels, but not sugar levels. But Adrian, if you want to use Accutane, you of course have to discuss it with your diabetologist or your internist, whoever is controlling your diabetes and giving you medicine for your diabetes. Comment from Diane. Hi, Dr. Schultz. Thank you for doing this. What do you recommend as a good antioxidant for the skin? My favorite antioxidants are vitamin C-based antioxidants. In particular, antioxidants that contain either tetrahexadecyl ascorbate or methylsilanol ascorbate. I know those are big words, but actually in the Derm TV episodes on antioxidants, you can actually see how they're spelled. But the most important thing, the reason I like vitamin C the best is because it's easily absorbed into the skin, and provided it's these forms of vitamin C, it's more stable. Unfortunately, less stable forms like just regular vitamin C, which is called ascorbic acid, is very brittle, breaks down easily, and turns dark or yellow quickly. But the two types that I mentioned, which are found in the BeautyRx antioxidant, the two types that I mentioned are stable and long-lasting. In addition to that, they also help to reduce the brown discoloration on the skin. And don't forget, the main function of an antioxidant is to get inside the skin cells, because if it gets inside the skin cells, then it can protect the skin from the deleterious effect of the free radicals that are inside the cells. And the only way it's going to have time to sink into the skin is if you apply it at bedtime when there's no ultraviolet light, so it has time to penetrate into those cells. Because when you use an antioxidant during the day and you go out into ultraviolet light, the ultraviolet light will actually be absorbed by the antioxidant, which is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to absorb bad energy, but it'll happen before the antioxidant gets into the cell, and it'll just actually become additive to your sunscreen, and it'll act as a sunscreen. So use your antioxidants at bedtime. The BeautyRx product that I was referring to is Protective Vitamin C Rescue Serum, and of course, it should be applied at bedtime. I have a comment from Ab, who's 20 years old, and asks me which products are best suitable for me. Ab, I'd like to tell you, but in order for me to do that, I would need to know what your skin type is, whether you have normal skin or oily skin or dry skin or combination skin. And if you're not sure, you can very easily find out by going to the BeautyRx site, and there's a questionnaire with 3 simple questions. If you answer those questions with either yes or no answers, the site will immediately tell you what type of skin you have. And after you've determined that, in terms of the products that are best suitable for you, you need to tell us what it is that you want the products to do. Is it for anti-aging, or for complexion problems, or darkening, or just for sun protection? So give us a little more information and we'll be happy to help you. I have a comment from Vanessa. My skin is very dry. I peel a lot around my eyes and my nose. I have to use very heavy creams to combat the dryness, but I'm afraid I will break out because the lotions are so heavy. What would you recommend? Well, first of all, the real question, Vanessa, is this dryness, that what you're perceiving as dryness, is it dry skin, or is it actually a form of dandruff, especially when it's around the nose and around the eyes, in the eyebrows, on the sides of the nose, between the eyebrows? Because flaking there, especially with a little pink skin, is usually dandruff, which is called seborrhea. And seborrhea causes a flakiness. And a lot of people, when they see flakiness on the skin, just assume this is being caused by dry skin. But flakiness is actually a final common pathway that comes from many, many different things, such as dry skin, but also from seborrhea. So I suspect that the reason you're not making progress is because you're using moisturizers, and moisturizers add moisture, but the problem really is inflammation, and that inflammation may be caused by oil that's trapped under the skin. So it would make more sense then for perhaps you to try with a 0.5% or 1% cortisone, or even some of the over-the-counter antifungal creams like ketoconazole can also help reduce seborrhea and flaking, even though it's not a fungus infection, but these chemicals do help. If that doesn't help, then perhaps you can get back to us and we'll see what we can do to help you. And again, if you're watching this anywhere other than on BeautyRx.com, keep in mind that by visiting BeautyRx.com/live, you can post questions as just did Vanessa. Arthur said in another comment, I have thin skin on my face. Can I use an exfoliant? Of course you can. Actually, one of the reasons we use exfoliants is to help thicken skin. So, wait, this is confusing. I thought exfoliants dissolve skin. Doesn't it thin skin? Well, think of your skin as having 2 parts. The dead part on the very top, that's what creates the flakes. That's the bad part. And then the live part, live cells underneath it. And the exfoliants dissolve off the dead cells, the cells that cause your skin to look dull, matte, even to have brown blotches. And as a result of that, of removing those cells, your very smart skin knows that the top layer has been removed, and it then sends a message to the layers deeper down in the epidermis to make new cells. So the skin actually plumps up, and that plumping of the skin is what causes the skin to actually become more lucent and to look healthier, and actually takes away some fine lines and wrinkles. So yes, you certainly can use an exfoliant even if you have thin skin on your face. Miriam asks if birth control is a recommended option to eradicate acne, and if so, which birth control pills do you recommend? Birth control pills are one of 3 internal ways of treating acne. First is antibiotics, the second is birth control pills, and the last is Accutane. Birth control pills, if you don't need them for contraception, are my least favorite way of treating acne internally, because birth control pills can have effects elsewhere in your body. If you do need a birth control pill for contraception, then birth control pills for acne make perfect sense because you'll get dual protection, both from contraception and against the acne. And there's a whole class of birth control pills that have a estrogen-progestin balance, which is more conducive toward helping acne. So those are pills like Yasmin and Yaz, also Demulin, orthotricycline, orthotricycline low, and the list goes on. And if you'd like some more names, I'd be happy to provide them to you. You can reach me through posting the question on BeautyRx or on Derm TV. And the other thing you can do is check with your gynecologist and see which pill your gynecologist likes to use for acne treatments. Sarah says that she's never used a glycolic exfoliating product before, but really wants to try the advanced exfoliating therapy pads. However, she noticed that your beginner products, my beginner products, are the daily ones, such as the daily exfoliating therapy cream and serum, of course, depending on what your skin type is. Does she really need to begin with the daily versions? Sarah, as long as you don't have sensitive skin, you certainly can start with the exfoliating pads, but bear in mind that they shouldn't be used 2 nights in a row. They're only used 3 times a week on alternate nights, and for the first week or 2 weeks, after leaving them on for about 15 minutes, they should be washed off, but as long as you don't have sensitive skin, you certainly can jump right to those pads. And I have comment from #1 fan. I'm an athlete, so I tend to work up a sweat several times throughout the day. My back is starting to break out recently, perhaps from the sweat and oil. What can I do to fight the acne on my back? #1 fan, I love it. We actually spoke about this a little bit earlier in the video, in the streaming video, and really what we discussed was making sure that you're removing the sweat from your back as soon as it occurs. Also, because you're sweating and you're wearing a shirt, the rubbing against the sweat promotes the acne, so if you can wear something that's backless when you're doing your athletics, that would help. Using an exfoliant every day and topical products that will help to actually reduce the pimples that contain sulfur and resorcinol or salicylic acid. And here we have another comment from a guest. Hi, Dr. Schultz. I used to have very clear white skin when I was younger. Now that I'm 24, my skin has started to get worse, and I have pimples on my chin and forehead. What should I be doing? Certainly using a skin type appropriate cleanser and toner. Again, cleanser and toner for either oily acne prone skin or combination skin, depending on which you have, which again, if you're not sure, you can figure out from going to the BeautyRx skincare site and answering the questionnaire. So you want to remove the oil with cleanser and toner. You want to use an exfoliant to help unclog those pimples. And again, for any acne, you want to use chemicals like benzoyl peroxide, salicylic acid, sulfur, resorcinol. That will help to actually make those pimples go away. I'm happy to tell you that in 3 or 4 months, BeautyRx will be releasing its acne stick, and that acne stick is a spot treatment which works just as well as the prescription strength products that I prescribe to my patients from my office to treat individual blemishes. We have a comment from Diane. Should you wear sunscreen when you're indoors with windows? Diane, that's so important. Many of us at this point understand that window glass stops almost all the UVB burning rays, and the burning rays also help cause skin cancer. But that same window glass only stops about 1/3 or 1/4 of the UVA rays, and the UVA rays are the ones that cause premature aging of the skin as well as skin cancer. So believe it or not, if you are in a windowed room during the day and it's light outside, you need to wear a UVA protective sunscreen. Now, there is no sunscreen that protects only against UVA. They all have UVA and UVB protection. There are some sunscreens that protect only against UVB without UVA, but if it has UVA protection, it will have UVB protection, and you do need to wear sunscreen indoors to prevent those UVA rays, and I'll take it one step further. Mirrors also will reflect that UVA radiation, so if you're in a windowed, mirrored room, that's even more of a reason to wear your sunscreen during the day, even when you're indoors. We have a question from Christina. My face feels scaly and dry even though I use moisturizer every day and night. What's causing the scaly skin, and any recommendations? Christina, it really depends where it is. If it's on your cheeks, then the moisturizer you're using just isn't rich enough, or just isn't giving you enough moisturization or water. But there could be one other problem, which is you may be using a cleanser or a toner or both that are just too drying for your skin type. So you want to make sure that your products are labeled for dry skin, like my refreshing cleanser and my clarifying toner. And if you're using these more gentle cleansing products, then you want to use a moisturizer that's still water-based, but something a little bit heavier. So when people have combination skin, I usually start them on a very thin, light moisturizer. And the one that I use is light rehydrating lotion, which is the lightest moisturizer I have. But if it's not giving them enough moisture, then I move them up to my Nourishing Moisture Cream, which is still water-based and won't break you out, but just gives a higher dose of moisture, particularly for skin that's thirsting for water. And you also want to make sure that if the scaling isn't on your cheeks, but it's really around your nose, around your between your eyes, then that may be seborrhea or dandruff, which we spoke about a little bit earlier today. And a comment from Lila. Dr. Schultz, what causes transparent skin or visible veins on the face? use it if you are, because again, that exfoliant can thicken the thin layer of normal, viable skin and actually help to hide the veins, but probably not enough to make them actually go away completely. We have time for 2 more questions, so let me just see what we have. I have a comment from Max. The maximum, thanks Max, the maximum solar defense sheer cream SPF 50 looks great, but I want to get tan. Can I still get tan with such a high SPF? Max, you actually can get some skin darkening depending on your skin type with that SPF, and as I mentioned before, that darkening is much less dangerous than the darkening you would get if you weren't using the SPF 50. But the answer is yes, you can get some, and while you may like the way that darkening looks, it really does tell us that there's been a little damage to the skin. So maybe I could make you a counter offer on the darkening. Maybe instead of trying to get that darkening from the sun, maybe you would consider just a topical tanner, an artificial tanner, one that comes out of a bottle, which can give you a very realistic looking tan and not create any damage in your skin. Comment from Marissa. And of course, a lot of the comments today are about sunscreens because of the season, but Marissa tells us that the sunscreen she uses has an SPF of 50, and it makes her facial skin sting a little, but she wants a strong sun protection every day for her face. What should she be using? The chem-free sunscreens are much less apt to cause any stinging or burning. The chem-free ones are the ones with the zinc and the titanium, and one of the reasons that I love and my patients love the Maximum Solar Defense Sheer Cream SPF 50 is because it has zinc oxide and it just doesn't cause any irritation. It is great for sensitive skin, but it sounds like you're getting a little irritation either from some alcohol in your sunscreen or from one of the other chemicals. And why don't you change to, if an SPF 50 is great, although there's really no reason to go higher than a 50, but an SPF 50 is great, but use one that is, quote, chem-free, which really means that it either has zinc or titanium. I think we're going to wind it up here for today, for this first BeautyRx Live. And again, I am so grateful to all of you for all of your help, for your questions today, for the feedback, for letting me know what's important to you so I can stay in touch with that, because again, I think my accessibility to you as the creator of BeautyRx Skincare is very, very important, so that you can get your questions answered as we have today. And if you go to the BeautyRx Skincare site, you'll see when the schedule is for our next live BeautyRx by Dr. Schultz. So thank you everybody, and we'll see you soon, and use your sunscreen.